Hey there, I'm Rye Myers, your Broadway and Entertainment BFF, and you're watching Live with Rye. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hey, before we begin, I have a huge favor to ask of you. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel below so you never miss an episode of Live with Rye, and you can see anytime I go live. It also helps me out too and helps my YouTube channel out. So smash that subscribe button. And before we go on, I have another favor to ask of you. I love being able to bring you some of the best interviews with people like I'm talking to today and throughout the industry and giving you exciting content as your Broadway and Entertainment BFF, but I can't do it without your help. So if you be so kind as to go to ridethenewsguy.com/donate or scan this fancy QR code right here and donate to help support the show Live with Rye and my platform, ridethenewsguy.com, it would mean the world to me. You'll also see it scrolling across the bottom of your screen as well, ridethenewsguy.com/donate throughout the show. So you can go there as well. And with that, let's welcome my very special guest, Ben Rauhala. Oh,
Hi.
Did I get that right?
It was super close. Yeah.
Okay,
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, thanks. How about you?
I'm excellent and really grateful to be here. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for doing this. I was hoping I was close. As I said, I spelled it out phonetically in here, so I was like, oh, but I never want to get anyone's name wrong. So.
Oh yeah, I'm like, for the education, for anyone who watches this posthumously, I'm like, the way I tell people, it's Rauhala. So it's like Rau like cow and then ha and la. But because it's Finnish, the emphasis is on the first syllable and it means place of peace in Finnish, like a spa.
So you are like you give off a very fun, relaxing vibe. So you're sort of like a spa.
I know. I'm definitely fine. I wish more people thought I was peaceful, but I'm chaos, really.
I love it. I love it. Well, how did you get started in music directing and gaining your respected reputation in this industry? Sort of take me back a little bit.
Yeah, I grew up as a musician. My first Broadway show was Beauty and the Beast, and when I went to see that, I begged my parents to let me have piano lessons after, and uh, so I played piano from when I was about the age of 7, I think second grade, and started doing percussion when I was 13. And I grew up around theater because my grandmother is from Long Island and always took me to Broadway shows. And my father is a trumpet player as well as a lawyer. And so I used to see him play in different.
Yeah.
So I'd put on my blacks and watch The Sound of Music from down there. So I was around theater a lot, but they didn't even do theater. They didn't do musicals at my high school. So I did drama club in middle school as like an actor while I was I was doing band and I was doing drama club. I was not a good actor, but I did play Professor Bear in the play Little Women, not the musical because it hadn't been written yet. But when you get to high school, you sort of have to pick and choose. And I was like, no, I'm a music person. And they didn't do musicals, so I was not involved in theater in high school, but had singer friends because, I don't know, I always had singer friends. And when you're a piano player, you always have singer friends. But I ended up going to Emerson College my freshman year, where I was going for journalism, but was attempting to get piano lessons. And I ended up accidentally playing for the heads of musical theater, and they were like, that seems useful. And they roped me into music directing a couple little shows, playing some auditions, some cabaret stuff. I ended up doing my first musical, which was Honk. And I discovered really quickly that I had a real easy time working with singers and like an affinity for making them feel comfortable and that it was fun. And I wanted to be a print journalism major originally, and I thought I loved music, but I thought there would never be a job for me. And it very much fell into my lap that I was like, oh, people are music directors as their job. Like, this is a profession. Okay, cool. And I transferred out to music school because I felt really wild being 19 and telling these BFA musical theater students who like, you should sing it like this, or this is how this song should go. I was like, who am I? Like, go get an education then. So I went to University of Massachusetts Amherst and I studied piano and percussion and arm waving, conducting. Then I went to the University of Central Florida for grad school right after. But it was around that time I started living in New York for the summers and slowly networking with various singers. Alicia Umfrist and Lauren Kennedy were the first 2 singers who I sort of got to perform with, who like, when I met them, they trusted me enough to let me do songs with them. And slowly but surely, back in the day, you would Facebook people, now you Instagram people. But then I would like be Facebooking different music directors and being like, hey, like, would you have time for coffee? Or would you? And they would often let me sit in the pit with them, which was amazing and would answer so many of my questions. Charlie Alterman and Next to Normal was a big mentor. Brian Perry, who was at Wicked, now is at Jagged Little Pill, was so educational to me. And through that sort of thing, I eventually, Charlie Alterman brought me on as like a baby music assistant for the rehearsals for Pippin when it was coming to Broadway. And that was sort of the beginning of what became my Broadway journey. Uh, and sort of along that way, I kind of made my way up befriending singers. And so that was sort of, I was doing a lot of concerts along the way and sometimes producing my own concerts when I needed to make my own work. That's where that Broadway Love series sort of began. And yeah, it sort of sprouted there. So that was how the beginning sort of happened.
I love that. Well, you had a great beginning for sure, and you've done so many great things. So, I mean, that's exciting. And you've done a few Broadway shows as well, right? You played two at one time, in fact, right? You have a rare sort of specialty.
Yeah,
That's
I was on the music teams at American Psycho and Fiddler on the Roof at the same time, and I was sort of like number three or number four on both music teams, which meant that like I could kind of handle both. They had the same producer, and because I was only at either one a little bit part time, I'd be in tech for American Psycho and leave and go play the night show at Fiddler, and then come back for the 10 out of 12. Or it was really it probably I will never feel that successful again. That was amazing. Be like, I'm just going to go to my other Broadway show now. And of course, American Psycho only ran for 2 months, so it was a brief moment. But it was an amazing, really magical moment, and two very different shows, which was also incredible. To walk from one theater where people are getting murdered on stage to Duncan Chic techno music to go play tradition with Danny Burstein. It was really,
yeah. So
it was a special time.
yeah, two complete opposites. That's great. So you've become friends with a lot of Broadway friends, and as me being Broadway and Entertainment BFF, I'm excited to hear that. How did these friendships start with like Jeremy Jordan, Lauren Kennedy, Laura Osnes? Was it all just through sort of connections in performing and doing sort of concerts and cabarets? You have quite the roster of a friend group.
Yeah. The earliest ones I think about is, it came from just like being willing to go up to people and say hi. Actually, when Lauren Kennedy, that's really early story. This is maybe 2008, March 2008. I went to see her and Jason Robert Brown do the last 5 years at Birdland. And it was kind of the first cabaret show, something like that I'd seen like that, where we all loved Last 5 Years. We all loved Last 5 Years, and loved her Songs of Jason Robert Brown album. If you don't know that album, people out there, go stream it because it's key. But I this amazing experience. It was so intimate. Right at like the first level, and I felt like Lauren and I were just like having a moment. I felt like she was like singing directly to me, and I was like, "This is the best. New York is amazing." And my friend Elizabeth, who I was with, was waiting to meet Jason Robert Brown after, and Lauren was like, I used you the entire time. You were the best audience member." I was like, "You really were looking at me?" Because you think like she can't possibly be looking at me. Like she's a Broadway star. Like you can't see me. I'm in the audience.
Right.
And we got to talking, and we became Facebook friends. And she found out, I'd been playing with Alicia Umphris a little bit. And at some point, I was really gutsy, and I asked her. She was about to play at the Laurie Beachman Theater for an open mic one night while she was doing 1776 at the Paper Mill Playhouse. And I was like, "Hey, do you want to do a song together? Like we could do any of these ones." And I, gave her like a list of like 20 songs that I knew that she knew. And she's like, "Yeah, let's do I Can Do Better Than That." And she was literally my favorite Broadway star. And I was like, great. And I was still in college, and I like drove in from Massachusetts, and we like did the thing, and I didn't screw it up. And that was sort of like the first thing that gave me like a little bit of street cred. And then it all gets easier from there. But it really was about just making friends with singers. That's really how I sort of found my way in. Because also every singer loves to sing, that's the thing. So I was like, let's just get to a piano and sing for fun. And that is how so many of my friendships started. But Jeremy specifically, oh gosh, 2011, I was doing a reading of Ever After with Jeremy's wife, well, at the time girlfriend, Ashley, and he came to a read through he was rehearsing Bonnie and Clyde. It was that time, and he was traveling to do Newsies at Paper Mill at night, but he had a break, so we came to like a run through, and we sat together, and I didn't think much of it, and I'd hung out with Ashley at their apartment a couple times, but I don't think we'd ever been there at the same time. But he knew she and I were friends, and we ended up doing a master class together at some point for Ken Davenport. And I remember they asked him to sing a song, and he gave me the sheet music for Bonnie, and he was like, "Let's do this." And I played Bonnie with him, and I finished the song, and we were leaving, and I was like, "Thanks for letting me play with you." And he's like, "Well, I didn't really have a choice." And I was like, "This is the beginning of me and Jeremy's choice." I was like, "Cool, great, cool." So, but we were put on Hit List together, the concert version of the musical from Smash. And And I was, you know, very like professional that whole week, and I had done all of the new arrangements for everything, and I was feeling very like I was just like holding my ground and doing, and I did it. It went really well. It was like really, it was like in a dream come true job. Like I loved Hit List in season 2 of Smash, so it was like stepping into your favorite TV show. It was really wild. But at the end of that, he and I had, you know, had a lot of good rehearsals, and you know, had some like funny, tricky moments where, you know, I had to convince him to belt this or that note, or maybe we'd change the key for this, and, you know, had navigated through some fun stuff. And he came up to me at the after party and he was like, I'd work with you any place, any day, any way. And he just like had just enough liquid courage to say that before he was leaving. And,
Wow.
you know, a few months later, he decided he was going to do some concerts because he had run out of money from Smash, and he gave me a call, and we've been doing that ever since. That was April of 2014, so that's been 7 years now.
Wow.
And Laura, I met through Jeremy. Actually, no, Laura and I ended up on a demo recording that summer. We did a show called Fifth Republic, which there's a song called Encore. If you type like Laura Osnes Fifth Republic, it's me and Laura and like an orchestra doing this really epic kind of Les Mis type of song where she sings partially in French. And I remember when she came into the recording studio and she had her sheet music with her. And we got to this one part and she did this amazing opt up. And she was like, oh, I just, you know, it just came to me. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's great. But I had seen when she looked at it, I had seen that she had written it into her sheet music. And I was like, that's my kind of person. She was like, I'm just going to try that and see what happens. But she had like, it was like the same instinct I would have had, but she was so kind about it where she's like, oh, I just thought of it in the moment. And, and I was like, this is a real one. And we ended up maybe 2 months later, Jeremy was having guests at his first 54 Below run. And she was going to be one of the guests. And so we came up with the idea. We were like, okay, what can we do? And he's like, what about, like, we were looking at next 10 minutes. And what about 10 minutes ago? They both say minutes. And that is when we collaborated with also our friend Kurt Crowley, who is a music supervisor at Hamilton. We collaborated with him to make that arrangement. But that was a really a fun rehearsal process where those are all really, really smart people. I'm pretty smart. Kurt's a full genius. Jeremy's a genius. Laura's a genius. And all four of us are perfectionists. And it was really just ideas spouting back and forth, and editing and up and down and up and down. And it happened very quickly and organically, but exactly how we all wanted it, you know. But that was such a product of those four brains. And that was such a good creative process, you know, that we ended up doing it again just because it was so fun. And
Right.
I think that really bonded me and Laura's relationship. Yeah, and that was the start of that.
I love that. That is great. Yeah, I've met Jeremy twice. I first when Ashley was doing producers at Paper Mill.
Yeah.
It was my very first show that I had gone to at Paper Mill. I was in school, and I had gone. It was my first show. I'd gone to a Paper Mill like review for press, and it was really cool. And he was there afterwards. I was walking out. I was like, "It's Jeremy Jordan."
Oh, were you at opening?
Yeah, at opening. Yeah.
Oh, I was there too. Yeah.
Oh my
It
God.
was me, Jeremy, and Kathryn Charlebois. We have some really cute pictures from that
And
day.
I was like, can we get a picture? He's like, sure. I was like, oh my God, I just met Jeremy Jordan. So that was really cool. And then when he did that concert for Seth Rudetsky in 2018 downtown at the I think at the Cooper Center. That was for the bring awareness about the sort of the immigration policies that were happening at the time.
Yes, was that when he did Over the Rainbow Home? Like, yeah, that one.
Yes, and I met him there too, and he seems very wonderful. And of course, you know, I've seen him sometimes after shows. I would stage door it. He seems like a really great guy. So I'm happy that you guys have become such good friends from that one moment of him saying he had no choice to now.
I know. He's really one of the he's one of the most loyal people I've ever met. He's one of like the truest, dearest, realest friends.
Yeah.
If like I can't do a concert, he won't do it. You know what I mean? It's like he's so outside of show business in that way, which I so appreciate. And also shout out to Ashley, who was so good in the producers. I mean, she was as Ula. That was really one of my favorite things I've ever seen. She was so good in that show.
Such a great production. I mean, I love that. Well,
yeah.
Speaking of Jeremy, Carry On at 54 Below concert with Jeremy Jordan recently aired for people to stream. Can you tell me a little bit about Carry On? Where did the idea come from for this? And I understand it happened in person, right? And then you filmed it during the pandemic?
Yeah. So Carry On, we did 2 weeks basically February 13th through February 28th of 2020. So just like as we joke, we call it Pandemic Eve. um, we were fully in a basement while coronavirus was circulating and we didn't know. And then we filmed it late March of this year. Carry on. Jeremy has always, after we did his first cabaret show in 2014, that was very like, I'm Jeremy Jordan. This is the story of like my life, and these are the shows I did. He has always wanted to kind of push boundaries and do things kind of more wildly. And so, our second show, I remember like our 2015 cabaret show was we like took audience questions. We like would have transitions where we would like be playing Go Fish and act like the audience wasn't there. We like really, and he had a fake nervous breakdown at the end of the show, but people really thought it was real. But we just really like loved playing with the art form that way. And so he wanted to, way back in 2016, we were in San Francisco and he just finished the first season of Supergirl, and we were doing a gala in San Francisco. And we were talking about him wanting to do a show about his childhood and sort of exploring stories from then. And maybe it would involve original songs. Maybe we'd have people write them, but definitely something that felt more like a play with music than just strictly a cabaret.
Right.
And that was eventually the idea that we picked back up at the end of 2019 when we knew that show had been rescheduled many times. We were probably supposed to do it, I think, July 2019, 3 months after the birth of his daughter originally, and he got something. Waitress. Well, he was in Waitress, I think, was maybe. He was doing American Son, and then it was Waitress, and then there were episodes of Supergirl, and then there was a movie, and it's a whole
Around the Waitress.
It was definitely, it's like that show got rescheduled multiple times. I'm sure there are people watching who can attest. They're like, I know my tickets were 2 times rescheduled. But so it was going to be something kind of different before his daughter was born, and then as his daughter was born, he was becoming a new father. Different childhood memories started coming up in him, and we decided to write a show about what it meant for him to be a new father, addressing the baggage that was coming up, the memories from his own childhood, and trying not to pass them on to his child, even though they're very omnipresent in his mind. And so we kind of dug into his life stories and tried to find songs that we felt like matched that moment. And then when we didn't, he wrote a couple of songs. And we really tried, he was really willing to be totally vulnerable, totally brave. And the kind of his friend, he was willing to kind of delve into and do for the art and for like the experience of it. And he was very brave, and it was a very emotional, very evocative show. And it was more fun in person because we had this concept where half the numbers were in 54 Below, at the moment it was happening at this concert, and the other half was before the concert, and he's rehearsing the show kind of like to his daughter, who's a baby, so like she can't really understand what it is, but he's trying to find the strength to be brave enough to tell some of these stories. And so it was, there were these kind of two different worlds, and we had a lot of fun directing our way through that with lighting and tone. And kind of by the end of it, he reveals that what it is, it's that it was easier for him to tell these stories to her, to have an audience of one, than it was to just share them in public. And it's a whole thing. But in person, we were able to have a lot more fun with the audience in the 54 Below sections, where it's like we're doing a princess medley and it's funny, funny, haha. And what we didn't know until we were filming it is that the things that like were meant to be funny, funny, haha, when there's no audience, were a little more like, felt a little darker. So then the film project we were very happy with, but it definitely was darker than we thought it was going to turn out, which, it was a dark year. So I think people were ready and willing for that. But that is definitely, when I look back at it, I remember the live shows being a little more fun.
Yeah. Well, nothing is like a live show. So I don't blame you with that one. Well,
totally. We miss the audience dearly, for sure.
I bet. Well, there's nothing like a live audience. So that's wonderful. Well, one of the other things you're also known for is the Broadway Princess Party, one of your claims to fame. Where did the idea come from to create the Broadway Princess Party? I understand it was your brainchild. This was in the words of Laura Osnessa, who I had on the show Tuesday to talk all about it. Where did it come from?
My bestie. Where did the show idea come from? There were a couple of little things. There was Jeremy and I. We went to Disney World. When was that? January 2015. It was like 5 days before that Celine Dion video. Before we did that, we were doing a concert in Orlando,
Mhm.
and we had been, and so we went to see like the Beauty and the Beast show at Hollywood Studios, and it was sort of like princess things were on my mind. And I'd just been hired to be an original programming producer. Wow, say that 5 times fast. Original programming producer at
Wow.
Feinstein's 54 Below, which meant that I needed to cook up a different show idea for every month. And so I was on the 6 a.m. flight back from Orlando to New York, and I had my notebook out, and I was just writing down show ideas. And I wrote down the Broadway Princess Party, Laura Osnes question mark. Um, because It's sort of like gestated in my mind, uh and I was just like, what would that be? Like girls singing princess songs? I don't know. And Laura came to my birthday party 2 months later, which this is maybe 4 months after Jeremy and I did where we all did the next 10 minutes go, and I probably hadn't seen her since. Um, Actually, no, that's not true. I went to see her and Santino do a Carnegie Hall show with Ted Sperling that February on Valentine's Day, which then that was part of the reason I got Fiddler on the Roof that fall. So it's all very like, because Laura was able to recommend me for that after. Anyway, I'm like, oh yeah. So that a couple weeks after Valentine's Day, because I had come to see her in that, she came to my birthday party because she is a polite young lady,
Yes.
and it was at Bourbon Street, R.I.P. Bourbon Street. It no longer exists. Um, but I'd had just enough liquid courage that I asked her about the idea. I was like, "What would you think about doing like a Broadway princess party, like a concert at 54 Below where we all play dress up and sing princess songs?" And she was like, "Yeah, sounds fun." And I, tucked that idea away and didn't talk about it for a while. Jeremy and I went on a Disney cruise that May, and I went to a princess tea party, which was like the characters like Belle and Tiana, and I forget who else, but with a bunch of little girls like showing them like you wave here and then down and you wave here and this or that, and it was really adorable and campy. And I was like, what if that show, that princess I did, what if it's this but adults, where it's like all of us like having like a princess tea party in the 54 Below basement, but it's like cocktails. um and so that was May, and then in July I was planning a reunion concert of the musical Bear, and Kristen Hange, the director, but we were supposed to do it in August, and Kristen Hange booked a movie, I think, and so she had to push till October. And I was like, all right, what idea is easy that I can do? Maybe I can call Laura. We could do that princess thing. It'll be just piano. That'll be really easy. Everyone knows the words to these songs. So I gave her a call, and magically, within like an hour and a half or so, Laura had sent me this Microsoft Word document, and I'd sent her a list of songs, and then she sent me, it was all of our best friends' headshots next to what princess they would play. And it's like the perfect shot of like each of them, because like that's how Laura's brain works. And we asked, it was 14 girls, I think, and all of the girls on that list said yes. Which it was an incredible roster. I mean, it was like Casey Levy as Elsa. Yes, that's right. I cast Casey Levy as Elsa before anyone else. I taught her Let It Go. I have like a recording of me plunking Let It Go for her.
Yeah.
I mean, Ruthie Ann Miles was Mulan. Courtney Reed was there since the very beginning. Cara Lindsay, Ariel Jacobs, Desi Oakley. Those women are all incredible. And Sierra Renee,
Oh,
Adrienne Warren. I mean, come on. It was just star after star after star. And we thought
okay.
it was just going to
I have to
be,
interrupt you for one
oh,
second
yeah.
to talk about Adrienne Warren. Her version of "Almost There" that she did, that you guys did, is just.
Oh my
I
God, can you even?
I can't even. I die and get reborn every time I listen to that version. I just cannot.
I remember that rehearsal. It was and we were figuring out how far we could go with like the bits, and also we kind of wrote some of those like opt up things together, and we were like, how far can we go? And I was like, you know what, everyone's heard the song the other way. We might as well just like do you, Adrienne. Um, that was so fun.
That
So fun.
ending is great.
I definitely don't do the bit in the show where I play her grandmother anymore. In like the lens of today, I'm like, that's a little culturally gross and insensitive. But at the time, she thought it was hilarious. And so if she thought it was hilarious, we're like, that's fine. But I will not be doing that in Disney Princess the concert. Now that we're not a campy show in a basement, I will not be playing her grandmother.
Well,
Her mother.
her ending to that song was phenomenal too.
Oh, I know. I know. It's just like, but like magic things like that happened. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It was just like, we were just thought it was just going to be like a silly little night. And these girls are always up for roles against each other. And these shows we talk about, there's only ever one princess track, you know?
right.
And so suddenly these girls who were always auditioning against each other were able to really cheer each other on and see what each other do and support each other. And what I'm post therapy. And like one of my gifts is usually being able to highlight somebody for the singer they are and like what they do well. And so I felt that that night was a very good representation where I think every girl did what they do really, really well. And so everyone was really supportive of each other and was cheering each other on. And we found that was kind of addictive, and that the YouTube video started going viral, and we are like, oh, well, maybe we'll do this again. Cut to, like, we've done it hundreds of times now, all around the country. It was supposed to be all over the globe, but, you know, pandemic happened.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you with that part, but I had wanted to
Oh,
get
you're no, but thank you, because I'm, of course, like, and anyone who hasn't seen Adrienne Warren singing Almost There, please go watch it, and then you will watch it every day for the rest of your life.
And you will watch it and rewatch it and rewatch it and rewatch it and just, yeah. Well, that's exciting. And, you know, it's become so much since then. It's now become, as you said, the Disney Princess concert. That must feel amazing that Disney is now involved.
Like Disney Princess, the concert. Oh, your Susan May babies, aren't these cute?
Oh my God, those are so cute. It must feel amazing that Disney's now involved. I mean, Laura mentioned the other day how excited they are for it to come aboard as partners. So, you know, what's that been like for you to now have the big wigs, the big guys? You have Disney now endorsing it, helping you with your tour, you know, taking you on tour. What is it like to sort of get now their stamp of approval? Because I know you all
my God.
First.
It's so fun. I mean, I'm on all these wild meetings. I've been music meetings. I'm doing orchestrations with them. I'm like helping them put together the different animation things for it. There's like all these wild aspects. Their marketing team is so smart and so good. We get to have like an original song written, which has been like such a joy to collaborate with them on. I mean, it's so much of it is so fun. But I remember we signed the deal, we signed at the dotted line March 4th on my birthday last year, 2020. You know, again, pandemic Eve. But I remember day like 3 or 4 of quarantine, I was just sitting in my apartment, and my music team and I at Disney were starting to do the orchestrations, and they sent me an invitation to the box. And what was in the box was like all of the Disney Princess music. And I was like, it was like all the real scores, all the things. And I was like, oh, I was like, oh, I'm like in the Disney Princess. I'm like, look at this trove, treasures untold. And that's when it was first real for me, where I was like, oh. And they're like, all right, so what do you want to do to this song? And I was like, oh, you're asking me. Oh, and I mean, that's been some of the funnest moments. It's like designing these, you know, some of the orchestrations from the movie, some of the new orchestrations, or we turn things on their heads. We do them as quartets. Really customizing the different arrangements, making kind of things into mashups and medleys, and honestly, for a while, we were the only thing the Disney Concerts team was working on for different parts of the pandemic. And so it was like I had the Disney music machine's full attention, which was like,
that's amazing.
Wow! So that, I mean, for me as like a music nerd, that has been so fun. But getting to like work on the animation, and then we had a big tech process in March, getting to try and test things out. But oh my God, there are certain moments I like cry every time. Like Susan does the title song Beauty and the Beast, and Susan's downstage, and then we have the big video screen behind us, and like animated Belle walks down the stairs, and you're like, like, how am I doing this? And I'm like, just like little fairy god fairy me on stage, like it all happens to me, you know? It's you know, it's really been such a joy, and really given me hope throughout most of the pandemic, which was really, that really kept me going.
Yeah, and certainly a dream come true as well. I mean, that is just spectacular, and I'm just so excited. You all go out on tour soon in the next sort of coming months. Is there location and you have a lot of dates coming up as well? They really jam pack them in there. Do you have a tour location you're most looking forward to?
Oh, good question. I know we tech in Macon, Georgia, so that first show, November 1st, will be very fun. But we're in Orlando week 2, and I went to grad school in Orlando, and I think a lot of like the Disney workers, the ones who can get off that night, are going to turn out, and that's like, because that's what I love, is a lot of the people who work at the parks just love that material so much. So I have a feeling that audience is going to be really incredible. I think it's Walt Disney Hall too, or something. They renamed the Dr. Phillips Center room. I think it has like a Disney name, which I'm going to be like, living.
That's amazing.
What am I looking forward to? We're in maybe Wallingford, Connecticut, which is the first show that's kind of close to my family. So I'm excited for my family to come to that. And at the very end of the tour, like two shows from the end, we're in Medford, Massachusetts, which is maybe like 50 minutes from here. So it's like everyone from my like childhood and life is going to come to that. And it's right at the end of the tour. It's like date 88 of 90. And that's going to be so lovely. I'm
Yeah,
excited for that.
that is. Yeah,
But
they really have you all going. They've got you booked like boom, boom, boom
yeah,
to the
but we
other.
have like a whole week where we're doing shows in Texas, and Texas audiences are amazing, and they love Disney. Whenever we did Broadway Princess Party there, it was so lit. So I'm so excited
Oh
for
yeah.
that.
Well, and I would love to. I was saying this with Laura. I'd love to even see you guys in the park for not a sit down maybe, but even like a performance here or there at the Disney World itself for like a few days, or something.
Yeah, we're doing a bunch of press when we're in Orlando, and I'm hoping some fun things like that happen. And well, obviously Disney's in a big Ultimate Princess celebration campaign mode right now, and I'm hoping that as our show gets going and as the marketing team like learns what we are and what we do, that we get to do some fun things incorporated with that.
That's really exciting. Well, speaking of the pandemic, and you said this brought you a lot of joy during it. How were you holding up during sort of the brunt of the pandemic? And aside from this, how did you keep busy? Because as we said when you first came on before we went live, it sort of went 0 to 60 for you as far as with things ending and then things restarting.
Yeah, I I did a month in New York City, which was like, at first was like a nice welcome vacation, and then got very, I don't know, I'm such a busybody, and I turned nocturnal because my apartment was dark and I was up till 7 a.m. and then waking up at 2 p.m. It got very weird.
Mm.
And so once I'd been quarantined in my apartment long enough that my parents could come get me, my mom braved it and she drove into Manhattan. She picked me up and rescued me. And I thought I'd be here I'm in Massachusetts in my parents' home right now. I thought I'd be here for a month, and I'm not here all the time now, but I'm here some of the time now. Um, and for a while at the beginning of the pandemic, until like mid-April, I want to say, I was really like Disney, 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 and I was really hitting orchestrations. And then some of the Disney team got furloughed for a little bit. They kind of like pulled back for a little while, and I had a couple of months, uh, as I think we all did, that I was like, when it became clear that like we were maybe going to premiere in June initially, internationally, and that, it became very clear that that wasn't happening.
Right.
Um, I was famously like one of those I had like this big tweet that went viral about how like great Broadway is going to be when we come back in April, when we have the shutdown, and
No, that's all right.
that was some misinformed optimism there from yours truly. I will own that. Uh,
It wasn't because
but
I
yeah,
was.
so I came to Massachusetts, and yeah, obviously there wasn't a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, I was.
I was like, maybe it's April 2021.
Yeah. Well, I was that same way with the optimistic, I mean, as they say, so I guess you call me a cockeyed optimist, but I was optimistic. I was like, oh, April. And I was like, oh, June for sure. And then I was like September. And then I was like, definitely March 2021. It's happening. There's no way. And then it was like, okay. And it was like by like September, it was like, but I kept wanting to believe. So it's all right. I mean,
Yeah.
um,
That early stuff was hard too, because we rescheduled all of our spring princess dates for the fall, and then they tried to reschedule for some of them for the winter. And then at a certain point, Broadway Princess Party dates couldn't be rescheduled because of the Disney contract. And so just like watching these dates fall off the calendar was really depressing. But yeah, so I came to Massachusetts and I got into exercising because honestly, what else was there to do? So somewhere between like exercising and playing Animal Crossing was a lot of what I was up to. And then some outdoor things, amazing things started happening. Caroline Bowman and Austin Colby, my friends who lead the Frozen tour, they got a call to do an outdoor show in Selbyville, Delaware, and we were really one of the first people to like do an outdoor pod performing situation, and that was really such a lifesaver for all three of us to just get to make art again and
yeah.
to feel like we do what we do. And at that point, we still thought we were coming back in September, and we're like, gosh, how are we going to make it till September? um, but that was a real turning point for me, and there were things got like we still had like and then when I was there, my Disney team got unfurloughed actually because we were maybe going to do some filmed opportunities that didn't end up coming through. There was a lot of stop and starts, just the way that everything in show business was like that, where it was like a lot of things that maybe were going to happen then didn't. But my Disney team got unfurloughed, and I was like, oh, we're back to work. We're doing the thing. And the princesses and I got together in September, and we workshopped the Disney show, really, the scripts and the new four-part arrangements, because we had newly for the Disney show, because we always have to represent all 14 princesses, well, the 12 princesses and the two queens. So we knew we needed a fourth girl because it's a lot of songs.
Yes.
But what it also meant was that I had to take these three-part arrangements I was still had been doing for 4 years or whatever it was, and make a fourth part and figure out. And I wanted to really do that well. I didn't want the fourth part to feel like it was the random harmony or just double sum. And I had time, so I really reinvestigated it. So we really workshopped the new arrangements in September, and we did a big old photo shoot.
Wow.
And it looked like opportunities were maybe about to happen, and then they certainly didn't. But we kept working on it, and I'm grateful we had all that time, because we've had so much time to develop the animation with the artists there and get closer with our team and do choreography. And so by that point, then I started getting calls for different virtual things. I filmed something in Las Vegas with Carrie St. Louis. The live stream stuff started really happening, and that started, so I started making money again, which was
Great. That's
amazing.
Thing.
Yeah, and things got a little slower January, February, when things were sort of darker in the pandemic, as we were all just when's the vaccine coming? And we were just talking about, it went 0 to 60. The month of June, suddenly, I was getting shows booked on 1 week's notice, you know what I mean? And just running up to New York and putting things together. And that's sort of what it's like now, is it's lots of fun, last minute, energetic wildness. And it feels kind of like my old life, which is great.
And everyone's able to do it. They want to do it, and because everyone's been in for so long, and while opportunities are coming back, they're still not all back. So people still have a lot of time. And so
right, exactly, the Broadway shows are not reopened, but New York is kind of reopened, and it's a weird time.
Yeah, I say Broadway is one. I don't know how many shows there were on Broadway. I say it's 1/25 of the way back, because you have Bruce Springsteen now, which is Broadway, but not the rest of the show. So I'm it's 1/20 of the way back.
Yeah.
Are there plans for any international productions of the Disney Princess concert, now that sort of things are starting to look up and there's more clear?
Yeah, we the company Disney, as well as our agents at ICM, are very interested in that. There's a lot of more than preliminary discussions happening about various things happening in Europe next year. Because they really wanted to line up with this Ultimate Princess celebration. So there actually might be a point next year where we have multiple companies at the same time, which is, we'll see, knock on wood, if the world things are going well. They're looking at a couple of versions that are not in English, which is amazing. And I'm wow, I'm going to have to learn how those songs are supposed to sound in other languages so I can help. Let me figure out those vowels for you.
And that all comes to you. That's got to be really special. I mean, a really special feeling to know that all of those productions that happen, whether they're English or of another language, all come back to you and the original people who created that. That's got to be really special.
Yeah, it's a joy. So how do you say fairy god fairy in a foreign language? Does that translate? What is that?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe I have to use Google Translate for that one. I don't know.
Exactly. I'm is that still funny in another language? Am I a fairy godfather in another language? What's the joke in I'm not going to say the foreign language, because then I'll disappoint people if we don't go there, but
Exactly. That's amazing. I mean, that's wonderful. It opens so many opportunities for you as well. I mean, and you've got ICM on board for 8 agents. I mean, that's big. So this is great. And I mean, Disney is celebrating their 50th anniversary of Disney World in October. So, that's wonderful that they want to line up sort of the Ultimate Princess celebration with, that and everything. So, that's really exciting. You've worked with so many Broadway stars and on their musical concerts and shows, as we were saying earlier, but what is that process like when you both first decide to do a concert and you have to decide on a song or sort of how things are going to be done? And what is that process like in the beginning stages?
Yeah, You know, there are different kinds of shows. There's sometimes we come in and we know in the set list, okay, we're hitting this song, this song, this song, this song. You know, I'm going to do the hits, or some people, you know, like with Daniel Quadrino, we do his more like they're more like pop concerts where we know it's just songs and we talk about them sometimes, but we're really a concert. Whereas a lot of people, like when I think about doing shows with Derek or Zach Adkins or like Jeremy, we sit there and we figure out. A lot of times I'm talking through their life stories with them, and I'm basically like we sit down at like a dinner, we get some Domino's or some beer or something, and we sit down and I talk them through. I ask them a lot of questions and I take notes and we talk through their life story, and I try to figure out what stories in their life sing and which ones we think will be emotional on stage or funny or but basically, it's like the way I do it, and because these people are generally my friends, it's like a big old bonding experience, and it comes out of that. But even like I have the same manager as Carrie St. Louis, and so we didn't know each other when I was hired to do her concert, but we had a meeting and it went well, and so we decided to do that. But we became very, very intimate very quickly, going through, we're just cataloging through her life, so I could write her thing with her. And we clicked very, very well. But the process is definitely from that. I try to go stories first if I can. And I also try to, even if I know what songs we want to do, I try to see if there's unconventional ways to use these stories and songs. You know, like it's even like with Carrie's show, I remember talking about her moving from California to Massachusetts to go to Andover Academy. And we were like, okay, traveling songs. And I knew that she eventually in Andover, she played Violet in Violet, which is like, you know, we used to joke of like a song about a disfigured belter. Um, but what we did was we used On My Way, coming about basically making the moment about going from California moving to Massachusetts. And then afterwards, she eventually talked about playing Violet and this or that. But we tried to always avoid being like, and then I was Violet and sing the song. You know, we always try to kind of like find a loopy way into it that feels organic and clever. And yeah, but I try to go stories first when we can.
That's great. Yeah, that's really important. I mean, you got to have sort of the story first to have any, I think,
Yeah.
any sort of show, whether it's a concert or a musical. So that's special. Not a lot of people can do that. So I really, I commend you. That's special for sure.
Thanks, Rye. Thank you.
You're welcome. What would you say has been your biggest career accomplishment so far?
Oh, wow. Um, wow. Um, hmm. Hmm.
So many.
Well, it's just, you know, it's funny. It's like trying to, you know, it's like, well, you know, it's like obviously I'm a person who's hard on myself. So I'm like, okay, it's a little bit like, okay, if I'm going to pat myself on the back, what is it? But then it's also like comparing your babies then. Um, you know, I'll give a couple. I mean, I'm certainly very proud of having taught and forced Jeremy to sing It's All Coming Back to Me Now. And, you know, that brought us to like London, that's brought us internationally, that has brought a lot of people a lot of joy. I'm very, you know, that was very much and that was him like that was a loving gesture from him. He was taking a Sondheim show at the time and he did that for me anyway because it was my first show as an original programming producer. There's that weird word again.
There is.
So that was a proud moment. When I did the second set of Broadway Loves Britney Spears concerts, like her following me on Twitter and like tweeting the videos out and stuff and
Yeah.
getting to meet her in person and talk about that was
Get to meet her.
yeah, that was like a definitely like a because I grew up like wanting to be Britney Spears' music director. That was like the ultimate goal. And so getting to make her music for her in a way that she heard and felt seen and respected by was like that was a really amazing career moment.
Mhm.
And you know, bringing, I mean, playing Part of Your World with Jodie Benson, like, and befriending Jodie Benson, like, Jodie sent me this bag. You know what I mean? Like, she saw this in a store and she was like, "I was thinking of you, and I bought this for you." You know what I mean? I was like, you know, I'm like, Jodie, like, she's one of my besties now, which is like, if you had told like 3-year-old me with my Ariel doll, you know what I mean? Like, what? Also, I mean, Susan is like the reason I learned to play piano. I was trying to play the song Home. Like, I went to see Beauty and the Beast and was like, I want to play Home. Like that was my reaction. So
Yeah.
you know, getting to film even our first video with her, nonetheless, do the show in Sagerstrom and start touring with her. I mean, that's so full circle for me, and it's like such an incredible gift. And the fact that I get to play the song that caused me to learn the piano in every show we do with the person who's on the record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it's a highlight every time. It doesn't even matter what day it is. We can be in like a comedy club in Huntsville, Alabama, which some people were probably there who's in the chat. That happened, and it's still my favorite thing.
I
Um,
love that. But you've had so many, and those are some really great accomplishments. I mean, really, and so many more to come. I have to ask, what was it like? I mean, to meet Britney Spears, of course, hashtag free Britney.
Half
Yeah.
Free Britney, exactly. That's my girl.
What
Oh,
do
she's
you
over
mean?
here.
I mean,
She's
wow. I
waiting.
understand that she saw your video and she said she liked your voice and right.
Oh my God, yeah, she was so funny in person too, because we had like a couple Twitter exchanges. Like we'd had a few months before Broadway Loves Britney, we'd had she was on Carpool Karaoke,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh my gosh, like your voice sounds so good, blah blah blah. She responded to two tweets that night because her album had come out that night, and she was like, I said something really nice about her voice, not thinking she'd ever see it, and she was like, she sent a bunch of hearts. She's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, that means the world to me, and I was like. And then she responded to some tweet about pizza, and I was like, maybe that was really her. I was like, oh my God. So, and that's, but so yeah, she had tweeted about the videos, and she put out like Slumber Party first, and then she like posted the whole playlist of videos, and I was like, oh my God. And then she or her team, whoever, followed me, and I was like, this is the best day of my life. I was like, Caroline Bowman was at my apartment at the time, and we were coaching for Waitress, which like also why hasn't Caroline Bowman been a waitress? People figured that out. Because that was singing. But I was like, I'm sorry, Caroline, we have to stop doing what bacon can do because Britney Spears is tweeting at me, and it's a moment. Um, but meeting her in person, it was definitely I was lumped in with like the group meet and greet situation, which definitely like you look back on it with the eyes of the Free Britney thing, and it's definitely like I don't think she enjoys doing those things or particularly looks forward to them. And it's like her show's at 9:30, and they're shepherding you with like 18 people at 9 o'clock. You know what I mean? I'm
Mhm.
like she has to go do the play. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's sweet and it's quick, and I definitely knew exactly what I wanted to say. I was like, I did this, her and Felicia helped a little bit, like her former assistant, who you see in Frame Me Britney Spears, Felicia Collada, we love her. But we talked about she like was like she did the Broadway thing, blah blah blah, and and I explained, I said like a script of compliments that I wanted to say to her that was like educated but nice, and
Yeah.
the end of it was like, and I just think your voice is so beautiful and so special, and she goes, I think your voice is beautiful too, and I was like.
Oh.
Oh, I mean, so sweet. But I was also like, did she like think I was Corey Cott? Like, does she think I was saying sometimes in that video? You know what I mean? I was like, because my voice is like hideous. But I was just like, if Brittany says my voice is cute, then my voice is cute. And I didn't take too much of her time. I was like, can I put my arm around you? And she said, yes, of course, honey. And we took the picture, and it's very cute. I'm a little chunkier in that photo than I would like to be, but you know what? It was authentic to the moment.
Oh. Wow.
But
That
no,
is
she was very sweet. But she's short. She is a tiny woman and
really.
very kind and very skinny.
That is
But she's a really warm person. But just definitely like, she definitely has that thing where she's like, are you a nice person or are you a crazy person? And she's like, okay, you're a nice person.
yeah. Well, I mean, being in the life she's had, I'm sure she always wants to know and ask. She needs to know, So
Of
that
course.
is wonderful. What a special, special moment. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Oh. So, what are you most looking forward to as a music director as things start to come back? Do you hope to see some sort of new changes? And if so, what are they?
Oh, good old question. Well, I'm excited to, just in general, like the basic people, I'm excited to see shows come back. But I'm excited, I think there are seven plays by Black playwrights that are coming into Broadway this season, which I'm thrilled about that. And I hope that that's not just for show in this initial push, and that I hope we really work at promoting more diverse voices and also that we find ways to support them because Broadway is inherently commercial. That is what's tricky about it is Broadway is a commercial theater space. And so I hope that we find ways to market and support those artists in a way where it's not just that we're throwing their shows out there for vanity, but that we find ways to help the great pieces of art find great audiences and live lengthy, successful lives on Broadway. And I hope that we keep paying attention to the type of people who we're hiring behind the scenes as well as on stage, because I think Broadway in general, we have a long tradition of like a show that looks diverse on stage, but is run by, white gays and such like myself. And I hope that those spaces change, and I hope they become safe spaces and more diverse spaces, and I hope that creates more interesting art and art that is successful in ways we don't expect. In the way that, not that everything needs to be Hamilton, but that is art that people wouldn't have expected to be successful. You're like a hip hop musical about Alexander Hamilton. We're like, sure, Jen, you know. But I hope that we find more gems like that, and I hope that happens organically, and I hope people feel safe and seen and heard.
I agree.
Um, and it makes me grateful also that I'm going to be out doing my little princess show, because I don't know that my voice is the kind of voice that needs to be heard or directing or putting in charge of people on Broadway right now. And I think that's totally great, And so I feel lucky to be getting to do the princess thing and, share love. And, in my own way, I represent the gay thing in a Disney show, which is amazing. And they're
Yeah.
so on board with that. Like, I was so ready for the day where they're like, so you can't be a fairy god fairy anymore. And that day never happened. They actually think that angle is amazing, which is the show tells my story now, which is so for like the little I grew up in this house, like the 12-year-old me who was like so self-loathing, who lived here, is like to be celebrated by like this company that meant so much to me is so exciting. So I'm excited to be part of that journey and to spread like the beautiful messages of courage and kindness that the Disney princesses are all about. I'm excited to share that with the country and
Oh,
to hang with my girls on the bus. It's going to be
right?
such a party.
It's going to be such a big party. Well, speaking of Broadway Princess Party, what have you learned about yourself through this time with Broadway Princess Party? What have you learned about yourself during this time?
It was a big exercise in getting comfortable with being in the spotlight, which was kind of like Susan's husband is a genius entertainment mogul, and he saw our touring show the first time, and he was like, "What's that guy's story?" That's he in his words, not mine, but he was like, "I feel like that's the most interesting guy on stage. I want to see what that is." And I was like, "Me? You want me to talk more?" Because I used to do like jokes, like I would do like the bit with like Tiana and stuff, but. And we sort of changed the story to like start with me, and then I bring the girls out and this or that. And I had to learn that like that taking up space is okay. I also learned that I'm funny. I think all gays are kind of fun. It's like we develop our sense of humor as like a defense mechanism, but that I have decent instincts about being funny on stage. Um, but then I learned a lot about comedic timing, about like you think you're funny and then you do the joke a little differently one night because you're bored, and then it's not funny and you're like, oh, okay. So comedic timing was big. um yeah, I think just learning to take up space, and Ariana DeBose, taught me really young. She's like, know your worth and don't accept discounts. And I think it's been a really big lesson in that. And if I hadn't been in so much therapy and this or that, I don't think I could have taken on the Disney deal and felt like I was worthy of it or that it was supposed to happen. But by the time it did happen, I was like, yeah, like what those girls do is really incredible. And I'm really proud to do that with them. And it makes sense that Disney would want to do this with us.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
if you would ask me that in 2015, I probably would have self-sabotaged. And like exploded it.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah.
I get
But that's what 6 years of therapy will do.
gotta love therapy as a person in therapy as well. Yes, you got best thing ever. I think if I ran the world, I would have everyone in therapy, because I think everyone needs
Amen.
to talk to. As we finish up here, what advice do you have for future music directors and collaborators of the future?
Sure. Don't be afraid to say hello to the people who inspire you. So many of my best opportunities have come from not from being talented, from just from saying hello and being willing to just like say something nice to someone. And kindness is everything and is remembered forever. Um, so I think that's a really, really big deal. Also, befriend singers. It was an non-traditional way that I got into things, but um, singers will, if you are great to your singers will take you everywhere with you. And so many of the most brilliant things that have happened in my life are because of my singers either brought me with me, or I was seen because of the singers that brought me with them. And that really became from friendships. So as a piano player, it's like, of course, like, singers always need piano players, but like piano players, if you want a music director, you need singers. And so learn to support them and nurture them and be their friend. And then I'm very lucky that whenever I work, I only have to work with my friends now. And it's my hobby and my job are basically the same thing, and it's just family all the time, and that is such a gift. And theater has an amazing way of being able to do that. If you can cultivate a community for yourself, you can live your life making music with your friends. It's like I feel like I cheated the system.
Yeah, well, no, that's what you need to do. That's how you do it. I love that. Such great advice. So, Ben, where can we keep up with you? Where can we follow you? Learn more about the Disney Princess concert, Princess Party? What do
Yeah. Well, so we're at DisneyPrincessConcert.com. That is where all the tour dates are, and there are probably another 10 that are going to be announced in the next month or so that are going to go on sale. So that's where that is. I'm at B Rauhala. Oh, there it is. I'm like, how do I? That's Instagram. That's TikTok, which I really need to upload another video. That's Twitter. There is a Benjamin Rauhala page on Facebook, which is mostly just things I post to my Instagram, then go there. So if you are a Facebook person, go right ahead. um, and yeah, that's basically where I am on the internet.
Yeah, amazing. Well,
Oh,
Ben,
I should shamelessly plug some shows I have coming up.
do
I
it.
know Krysta Rodriguez and I are in the Berkshires in Stockbridge, Massachusetts on the 10th.
Oh,
Um, I do know that I'm going to have two shows at Tavern on the Green on the 19th and 20th, which haven't been announced, but may or not be with artists who rhyme with Schmerit, Klena, and Ariana DeBose on either one of those days. So look out for those. Derek and I are then in LA. Oh, sorry. Christy and I are at 54 Below on the 22nd of July, and they might open up some more tickets. That is sold out, but they might expand capacity. Derek and I are then in LA the 24th and 25th. So he just posted the link for that for tickets. And what else is happening? And then I have we're doing Broadway Loves Folk, or sorry, what is it? The folklore thing that I'm doing. What do we call it? Folklore, the 54th Street Sessions. I'm doing
oh,
that with
yeah.
Kathryn Gallagher and Andy Bantis. That's the 6th, 13th, and 20th of August. And that's all I'm remembering at the moment. But those are the things that are coming up very soon.
Wow. Well, you have a lot on your plate. You are super busy. I am here for it. I love it. I'm so excited for you. And I can't wait to see what you continue to have and live vicariously through your posts and your videos and everything in between. And just continue to continue to inspire everyone with your music and your passion and joy. And I'm really excited for it and happy for you.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. Well, you keep inspiring people and being Broadway's BFF and spreading good energy and joy like this. This is really lovely and fun. I'm glad you do this.
Thank you. Well, I tried. It was another thing that came out of the pandemic. I thought, let me create it. And I've always wanted a talk show. I love to gab, I got the gift of gab. And so I thought, you know what, let's do it. Everyone was doing a podcast, which are great, but I thought, let me go live. Let me do it and be on camera, and people have to see this face. And, thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Amazing. Well, thanks, Ben.
Thank you.